about $10 on FanDuel because the one lineup I leveraged against the Jaguars are probably going to be winning and playing for my head lineups, cashed so high that it was able to negate the losses there. DraftKings, unfortunately, didn't cash quite as high on my contrary lineups, but you got to do what you got to do. I did real well on Sunday, did fine on Monday, so I ate a little shit on Thursday. Now it's time for Sunday. Looking at the quarterbacks here, let's start with this. Let's make sure we're on DraftKings pricing, and let's just make sure we got them all in order. All right, so basically any one of these top 6 guys is really solid for cash this week. Matt's probably the scariest of them all, the lowest floor. High ceiling, though. He's going to have to throw the ball 30, 40 times. But, guys like Newton, Murray, Allen, Prescott, Wilson, what do they all have in common? They're efficient with the football. They have a high floor because they rush a bunch. So look for that. I think the number one stacked game this week is probably going to be Seattle and Dallas. Number 2 is probably going to be Arizona and Detroit. So you can look to build your game stacks for tournaments off of those if you want to be consistent with the field. Sometimes you want to be consistent and differentiate a little bit. We can talk about that more down the road. I like Kyler Murray a lot. I'm going back to the well. This guy's doing money for me. I like Cam Newton a lot. Going back to the well there. He's got an easy matchup. The Raiders are banged up. Their secondary isn't very good. They're playing, that being New England, are playing at home. So he's developing a rapport with Demarius Bird and N'Keal Harry. He's obviously already lighting it up with Julian Edelman. So that looks to be a good stack as well. What else can I say? Those are your cash guys. I would do one of Newton, Murray, Allen, Prescott, or Russell Wilson for cash games this week. If I was going to play in the Millie Maker or tournaments at all, then I'd be looking more for, I'd look at ownership at like Matt Stafford doing that Arizona-Detroit stack, but bring, maybe Stafford with Galladay or Stafford with Jones and, what the heck is that kid? Hawkinson, the tight end, something like that with a bring back, a D-Hop or Fitz or something like that. Burrow seems to be a solid tournament play. Same with Brady. Not huge on either this week for cash. Probably stay away from Rivers too. They're going to be handing the ball an awful lot. They're going to be beating the crap out of the Jets. I like Herbert for tournaments. Tannehill as well. They're just cheap. Game pace isn't going to be great on this game, but he's cheap. You can stack him easy with, I think his main guy Brown there's out, so stack him with Jonnu Smith and his boy on the outside there was Conley. Carson Wentz can get fucked. I mean, some people will be playing him. I'm not. That O-line's atrocious. He's overrated. He's got good weapons, but he doesn't know what the fuck. I mean, I don't know what his deal is. I think they should have never gotten rid of Nick Foles and won him a Super Bowl. Mitch Trubisky, I will probably take some shots with tournaments on because he's playing Atlanta, whose defense is trash, and Atlanta's going to put points up, which is going to mean he's going to have to throw the ball more. Allen Robinson has a great matchup this week. Maybe stack him with that guy and Tariq Cohen or one of his other receivers. However you want to make that stack, bring it back, some Ridley or some Julio Jones or whoever. Gage there, fucking Baker Mayfield. I am more likely to play Washington's defense against him than to play him. Just hasn't impressed me. None of these guys down here really make me a believer. So even for tournaments where you do want to be a little different and risk a little bit more, you got to risk it for the biscuit. That's what they say. Running back. All right, so let's make sure these are all. So running back's kind of interesting this week because you got Zeke being, and probably going forward, he'll be the most expensive guy on each Sunday slate with the injuries to Saquon Barkley and injuries to Christian McCaffrey. Problem with Zeke is that his quarterback, as we saw last week, likes to vulture his red zone touches. He's worth playing in cash. I don't know about tournament. Problem with tournament, like him, D-Hop as a wide receiver is the same problem. Safe in that their floors are nice. You know they're going to get a lot of touches. But because of their price, if they're not by and far the highest performing person at that position, you no longer have any opportunity to win any real money in a tournament if you've rostered them in a tournament. So you have to think about that. Henry, not for DraftKings, but I like him for FanDuel, which is touchdown dependent more with only that half point per reception. Cook is fine for both, but I'd rather get to other people. I'm going to stay away from Jacobs because, like I said, the Raiders are playing on the road. Their secondary is not very good. I feel like New England can get up on them pretty quickly. Jacobs will still have a bunch of usage in the passing game and rushing game, but I just think at that price point, there's some better options. Like this guy right below him, I'll probably have more of him than I should this week, both cash and tournament. Jonathan Taylor just lit it up for me, was money for me last weekend. I can't say enough good things about this guy. He looks great. Rivers just doesn't have the arm he used to have. Positive game script in that they're playing the Jets, who are terrible and without a starting wide receiver one. So, it's more likely than not that Indianapolis will be playing with a lead. And Jonathan Taylor is their primary usage guy now. Nyheim Hines sees some receptions out of the backfield, but he's more of a game flow dependent, if they're losing by a bunch kind of back. So look for Jonathan Taylor there. He's definitely one of my top options for cash. Chubb for tournaments, not for cash because of the timeshare with Kareem Hunt. One of those guys will probably have a good game. I'd be leaning more towards Hunt, but either of them are a great play, but just not safe enough for me for cash this week. I'd much rather go to like Austin Eckler here, Taylor like we talked about, Connor, same kind of game script here. Pittsburgh is going to be playing Houston. He's super involved in the running game. Seems to be healthy now. He had twisted his ankle week 1. Houston's got a solid defense, but it's not the defense they used to have with Merciless there and JJ and Jadeveon Clowney. JJ's still there, but he's gonna do stuff and things, but he's not enough on that D line, and that front seven's kind of soft. Not my favorite play, but someone I'll definitely get to in some tournaments just to have some variety. Chris Carson, I'm probably going to take a pass on this week. That might bite me in the ass because he very well could have one of those days. But, this game will be competitive and will be high scoring, and I'm looking more towards Russ, Tyler, and DK in that game if I'm going to target anyone. Miles Sanders, I'll have a crap ton of. I would definitely put him as a top 3 or 4 running back to put in your cash lineups this week on DraftKings. Very, very good game script here with less weapons for Wentz to throw to. He'll be checking down more, especially with Philly's shaky O-line, not being able to pass protect. They'll be looking to get aggressive and rush more. He's basically their primary use back, seeing most of the red zone use now. So I like Miles Sanders a lot. A lot of people are going to be on Fournette after last weekend, but you're not taking into account that his one big rush was like most of those yards. Ronald Jones is still their primary back. That might switch in the future, but Denver has a pretty good defense for runs. I think Brady will be throwing the ball more to Evans and to Godwin. I'm trying to remember. What's the name of that little – I always just call him that little white guy because it's, typical Welker, Edelman clone, that rookie that Brady loves. In any event, I'm probably not messing with most of that, especially not for cash games. Kenyon Drake I love. Definitely locking him in a lot, especially at that price. It's just too cheap. That's just too cheap for a guy who's going to see that many touches and targets week in and week out. He has a very good matchup this week against Detroit. It's been a dumpster fire on defense. Just another target, another weapon for Kyler Murray. Not bad in the stack. Let's move on. Melvin Gordon, some consideration for tournaments because without Cortland Sutton, Denver's really hurting for targets. So I could see Gordon and Noah Fant getting like an uptick in red zone targets this week. And, Gordon receives a lot out of the backfield. So that kind of helps his upside in a game where Denver should be losing comfortably. I'll take a stab at someone like Dion Lewis in a tournament. They did just sign I think it was Devonta Freeman they just signed, but I don't think he knows the playbook very well yet. Lewis, pretty good receiving back, pretty elusive, pretty quick. Someone's got to step up into that Saquon role. Danny Dimes needs to be able to check down, so Lewis seems to be a good candidate for that. You never know, he could break one free, but like I said, he's more of a target for, tournaments only, for trying to differentiate. Jerick McKinnon, a lot of people are going to be on him this week. He's super cheap. San Francisco, everyone else is injured on that frickin' team. But that being said, I don't know how much of him I'll get to. I will say that at least one of my lineups will feature whoever is backing this. I think it's this guy, Jeff Wilson. Let's take it. Yep. Yeah, this is the kid they picked up. Had a good camp, allegedly. There was a lot of talk around local affiliates. I have not seen him play, but 6 foot, 194. He's a good size back. So, yeah, if anything, I might take a shot at that kid. Just because the way these guys are going down, if you remember, McKinnon's prone to injury. There's been a lot of injuries week to week, especially that position, a lot of soft tissue injuries. So, who knows? I'll do a dart throw with that. Maybe I'll get lucky on a lineup. It won't be it'll be one of the 20 max $1 entries I do, or two, or, however I fuck with that. No one else really down here. Tariq Cohen a little bit if you want to stack him with his quarterback, just because he has a good week. He has a good matchup this week, and he's a good receiving target. So that's pretty much all. I think Burkhead's another guy I might take a shot on in a tournament or two with Cam, just because James White is out. So all they have is Sonny Michel, who has not played very well at all the last couple seasons, not super efficient in the running game, not a good pass receiver back either. So you might see Burkhead catch a few more passes. I think get a few more touches. There's a lot of talk around New England about why didn't they try to put him out wide or toss to him in the end zone at the end of the game instead of letting Cam run it in. No, Cam ran it in 2 other times. So he might fall in the end zone for you. Not a bad dart throw, but that's about all I really want to mess with. Again, I'm mostly just focusing on my core cash guys. Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Miles Sanders, Kenyon Drake. Those are really the 4 guys I'm building more of my cash lineups around. Take 3 of those guys this week. Moving on to wide receiver. I'll take another swig while this loads. All right. So, at the top, you got D-Hop. As we discussed earlier, great floor, huge ceiling. Only problem with D-Hop is he's expensive this week, and there's a lot of value at wide receiver. Wide receivers, a lot of cheaper wide receivers can go off and get you those kind of production, metrics versus other positions. It's hard to do that with the cheaper running backs and what have you. So I like him for cash. Don't love him for tournaments. I might have some exposure. But again, in a tournament, at 7,900, this dude's got to hit over 30 fantasy points. He's going to be the highest scoring wide receiver. I don't know that happens. It's possible, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's very safe for cash right now. Julio Jones, same problem. I'd much rather go down for 200 to Ridley. Ridley's getting more targets in the red zone. I don't know what's going on with Julio. If he's just a decoy at this point, he still gets his receptions. Clearly he's getting targets. But, Ridley and Gage are soaking up a lot more of the red zone, and Hayden Hurst there. So, Steph Diggs, I'm probably not going to get to him in cash and tournaments. Maybe I might do a John Brown, or whatever the hell his quarterback's name is, and Steph Diggs. Too tired to care. Thielen is like the primary receiver here, great for DraftKings, full point per reception. He's going to keep getting fed. I like him for both formats. Godwin and Evans, tournament only. It's just which one? Who's it going to be this week against Denver? Could be both, but that would imply that Driscoll is going to somehow keep up with Brady, and I don't think that's the case. I think Denver is, losing by 2 scores pretty quickly, and the ball's getting handed off. So I might just avoid that altogether, or just very much limit to some tournament stacking. Same thing with Juju Smith. Love the guy. He's great. But if I'm going to anyone on Pittsburgh for cash, I'm going to Deontay Johnson again. That guy was phenomenal last week for me. Really performed. They priced him up a little bit more this week. That's fine. I'll take me some Deontay. Cooper's kind of a tournament-only play because he can get you that high ceiling game, but he's also very likely to get you like 5 fantasy points, 7 fantasy points. DK, Tyler, pick your poison. They're both awesome. You could try to stack them with Russ, but then you're not going to get good running backs. And I don't really think that's the way to build a good lineup this week. Maybe get one of them with Russ, and then you go cheap. You go to like their tight end or something. But even Disley and I think they're all priced up a bit. So I don't know if there's a good way to get that. Kupp, is going to see a lot of targets. He's solid for both cash and tournaments this week on DraftKings only. Allen Robinson, great for tournaments this week. Both sites. I think FanDuel might even have him. Yeah, FanDuel, let's say. That's just too cheap for him. Jules, I love on DraftKings. I'll be playing a bunch of him. He is just, if you saw Cam Newton's press conference, he's wearing the Julian Edelman stuff. They are having themselves quite the little mochaccino man love baby right now. So, expect Jules to keep getting fed, keep eating against Oakland's poorest secondary. And, more DraftKings play, I guess, because on FanDuel, you don't get that full point per reception. It's just a crappier format for a slot receiver like that. But he's playing outside the numbers now, too. Kenny Golladay, back, healthy-ish. He's trending towards playing is what it looks like. He's practicing. I don't like him because of the just amount of attention he's going to get in the red zone. I'd much rather go to Marvin Williams, the other receiver for that team. As a number 2, Marvin is very good. Or Marvin Jones Jr., Williams, whatever his name is. Woods is good tournament. Keenan Allen, love him for cash on DraftKings this week. Not so much on FanDuel. He's going to get 1 million targets. Carolina is just terrible against the run and not much better against wide receivers. So, very, very easy to stream a high-volume guy like Allen against them. Maybe bring it back with DJ Moore, but I don't even know if I'm going to stack fully. Most of these other guys, I like Jones for tournaments. Boyd looks good for tournaments. I always love the McLaurin. The F1 has been nothing but good. He's going to continue to eat. Just not a lot of targets to go around besides him in that offense. He is the dominant target. So Ty has been kind of cold. Gallup looks to be a good tournament play. He's kind of that home run guy, deep down the field. We're going to need to see some of that this week from Dallas to keep pace with Seattle. You know how efficient Russ Wilson is. He's a good tournament guy. Deontay Johnson, I love for everything. He's soaking up the targets. He's the clear number 2. Remember how productive Juju Smith-Schuster was when Antonio Brown was there, and the number 2 receiver and the running back in Pittsburgh more often than not over the last decade. They just eat. CeeDee Lamb, this dude's picking up more ownership now. He's not as sneaky. I still like him. He's taken away from Gallup a little bit here, but I like CeeDee Lamb at the cheaper price point, young legs. Great for tournaments there. Corey Davis, too. Great tournament play. He's basically the primary receiver now with the injuries. So him and Jonnu Smith, not a bad stack with Tannehill. Brandon Cooks, man, I don't know what to do with this guy. He's such a boomer bust guy. Him and D Jackson are both kind of like home run hitters. I think all 3 of these guys, Robbie Anderson, too, he's good for me. I can't remember if it was week 1 or week 2 he did well for me, but I'll have to look at ownership before I touch him, see what it's coming in at tomorrow morning. Good for tournaments only, really. Russell Gage, if you want to pivot off of the high ownership of Julio Jones and you still want to catch some game stacks, he's not bad to stack with Ridley and Matty Ice over the Slayton. Good tournament guy with the number one. What's his name? Is it Sterling Shepard or whoever just got injured over there? I don't care. I'm too tired to go back and look. Slayton is the clear outside the numbers red zone receiving threat. Larry Fitz, definitely like this guy for cash and tournament only. I have a lot of Kyler Murray and Larry Fitz stacks, especially if I'm trying to avoid the chalky D-Hop. Yeah, most of these other guys, I'll take a pass on. I mean, Golden Tate would be fine. He'll be fine for cash on DraftKings, that full PPR. Probably not going to anyone else around here. N'Keal Harry, I'll play in some tournaments. He's had a pretty good connection so far with Cam Newton. He's getting a lot of targets. But, yeah, I mean, that's really all that matters. Scotty Miller, there's the little white boy for Tom Brady. His little pygmy. Yeah, Scotty doesn't know. But on DraftKings for the full PPR, again, not a bad cheap option on a tournament. You never know. It could be his night to shine. That's tight ends. I have zero interest in Tyler Higbee. I don't care if it bites me in the ass. I'm not paying $5,900 for Tyler Higbee. Fuck it. You know, I mean, the guy gets a lot of targets. He's super involved, and he's definitely cash viable. But I just don't want to waste so much of my lineup salary on a tight end this week. Kind of the same thing with Smith and Ertz. Actually, I'd rather do Goddard than Ertz because he's on the field roughly the same amount of snaps. Sees a good amount of red zone targets too. So they're all fine in here for cash, but I would rather go a little cheaper. Schultz, good way to pivot off of some of the chalkier plays on the Dallas-Seattle stack if you're stacking in a tournament. Mo Alley Cox, I probably have more exposure to him than I should. He really stepped in after that injury to what the heck was that kid's name? I don't even know. You know, the guy they ran once for like 8 yards and was like their top prospect receiver and then got hurt. I had a bunch of them too that week. It was brutal. But Mo Alley Cox stepped up, played almost like a slot receiver type role. A lot of seam routes, caught over 100 yards, a lot of targets. So I don't know if his production will stay at that level, but at $3,800, especially on a tournament, I'm willing to take a risk. Clearly, he's got some rapport with quarterback there, and again, it's Phillip Rivers. He's not trying to throw the ball all the fuck down the field. His arm not as good as it once was. He's liable to throw more picks. He knows he's more more likely to throw picks thrown it long. So I'll look for him to get in some Mo Alley Cox. Logan Thomas, I like again. Target volume's just there, good for the price. Priced up a little this week. I don't know why Waller's all the way down here. Because I didn't do this. Waller, I'm probably not going to get much of anyway. I mean, he's going to be at least 33% of the target share of the Las Vegas team this week, but he's playing a tough New England secondary. They're coming off of a tough loss. They're going to be playing at home. Not a lot of other receiving options with Ruggs being injured. So I think that Belichick, who's famously always going to try and take away what you do well, is probably going to try and take Waller away and make, dude, where's my car beat him with, Hunter Renfrow and that other rookie kid they got on the outside. And, it's just gross. Like, I don't want any of that. Noah Fant with Cortland Sutton out. Definitely like his options and opportunities this week. Fant could definitely find his way in the end zone one or two more times. Definitely not a bad play right there. Hawkinson's kind of expensive, but a good way to pivot off of the chalkier receivers from Detroit if you want to target their passing game or do stacks and just differentiate a little bit. Not a bad way to go. Definitely like Hunter Henry, full PPR especially. Carolina cannot stop tight ends. And Henry, has always been a high-volume guy that's going to continue, especially with a young quarterback. Hayden Hurst, continuing to see red zone snaps, continuing to see targets high enough to be considered. 4,700 is a little expensive. Most of these guys, I'm just, I'm mostly living in this Jordan Reed, Jack Doyle if he plays, instead of Mo Alley Cox, perhaps. One of these guys, Logan Thomas. That's where a lot of my lineups are winding up. I've got some Jordan Atkins in there. He's seeing some red zone targets. Um, you know, Staying away from the Gronk this week and sprinkle. That's pretty much it. I'm staying cheap, man. Like I am not trying to spend money because I'm spending all that money in my cash lineups on all those really good running backs and and also spending a decent amount of money on quarterbacks. For defense, special teams, really, it's always a pick 'em. Just look at defensive pressure rating and O line versus D line stats. Think about the game script. Whoever's going to be playing from behind is going to have to take more chances, going to sit in the pocket longer, throw the ball more opportunity for sacks and picks to come out that way. That's all you got to look at. It doesn't have to be the most expensive team. I do think that the Steelers, against a very, very depleted Denver team, look to be a good pay-up spot. Excuse me. Fucking Steelers. The Steelers against Houston, a depleted Houston team. The Buccaneers against a depleted Denver. And then New England. Where's New England? Should be one of the more expensive. New England is one that I'm landing on a bunch because they're playing Carr. New England's playing at home. And like I said, with no deep receiving threat, they're going to bottle up Waller and make Carr try to beat them with people he's less comfortable throwing the ball to. I also am getting a crap ton of the Jets and the Texans. Texans, they're going to give up a lot of points, but Ben stands in there a while. He holds the ball a while, takes a lot of sacks. So hopefully the points they can rack up in sacks will make up for the negative points scored from all the points against them. But yeah, I'm really not paying up in a lot of spots. In any event, let's go and do some lineups here and get on out of here. I'll load these slates and I'll drink some more. All right, so this is the first one. This is a GPP lineup. It's a tournament lineup. So we have a bit of a stack here. I like the Russell Wilson, DK, and Tyler Lockett. I don't like that there isn't anybody on the bring back that's not proper stacking for a GPP. Also, don't know that I want to play Carson in the same lineup as Wilson, Lockett, and Metcalf. You figure, 3 out of the 4 of these guys are going to have big games in a high-scoring game like this, but maybe we get rid of Carson here. I'm going to Jonathan Taylor, who I really like, and then we kind of... Oh, man, so money's kind of the problem, though, right? Let's get rid of Ertz. Barely breathe with all this freaking smoke, man. It's crazy. Gotta find some value here so we can pay up. All right, let's take N'Keal. Now remember, this is not a cash lineup. This is a tournament lineup. In a tournament, I'm not going to put 3 running backs more often than not because I want to differentiate. That's what a lot of people do. I'm going to put a wide receiver or a tight end in here just to be a little more unique. So I'm not holding hands with a million people. Like earlier this week, I took 10th in a big tournament, but I was holding hands with like 100 and some people, so I only got like $57. It was fucking nuts. I mean, I only put $5 in, so it was still a good payout. But if I had just been a little different and gotten a quarter or half a pint more, maybe I'd make a bunch of money there. Try Jordan Reed. Now, how much money have we got in there? All right, so then let us take Adam Humphries here because we're going to want to take somebody, at least one person, from the opposing side. So, yeah, let's take like Michael Gallup, right? Now where are we at? We're at 49.5. All right, so that's not a bad lineup, right? You got Russ Wilson. You're stacking him with his two main targets, DK and Tyler. You know, all three should eat. And then you're bringing it back with Gallup, who's a bit of a home run hitter. You got your Kenyon and your Jonathan Taylor, Jordan Reed for some value, and N'Keal Harry, who's going to get 9 or 10 looks. Maybe he catches 7 or 8, you know, at 4,200 in a tournament. What do you need from the guy? 15 points, and he's crushing it. 20 points, you know, if he actually finds his way in the end zone, it's a smash play. All right, so now let's do one for FanDuel, and then we'll go home. And I'll cook a steak. Cheers to that. FanDuel. All right. So it looks like it shot out some D. Watt. Not going to play Deshaun Watson at 8K on FanDuel. Forget that. Let's do this. Let's do the Trubisky. He's going to have minimal ownership. Trubisky at 7,500. Not quite as much savings as on the other site, but still solid. Okay. So first thing, we got Allen Robinson already in there. Then I want to make sure that we're bringing it back. Where is... That's what I want. It's Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley. Let's do maybe Gage or something. Get some value in there. Gage, and then take Logan Thomas. Throw some Anthony Miller in there. Take New England. Boom. Oh, actually, yeah, no, we're not doing that. Give me some Zeke. And then some Miles Sanders right there. All right, that's a healthy looking tournament lineup right there. We got Trubisky, Miles Sanders, Zeke, Allen Robinson, bringing it back with Ridley and Gage, Logan Thomas for some value, and Anthony Miller to try and capture targets. Didn't want to go Tariq Cohen on FanDuel because you don't get the full point per reception, and that is 5 or 6 less points for Tariq Cohen. So, Pats defense, bringing it back. They're only rating 28. That's an interesting... I mean, the Pats defense is not as good as it was last year, that's for sure. But look who they're playing. Who the fuck are... I mean, you know, pick your poison here. You know, we can do the Colts just to make it a higher draft ranking, right? In any event, there's your tournament lineup. You've left some aside. It's better to leave 500 or more, but at least if you're leaving like 200 or 300 plus, you know, you're doing well. You're being more original. If you use all the money in a tournament, you're tied with 1 million people, guaranteed. In cash, use all your money, but leave a little on the side for these tournaments. Cool. Thank you guys as always. Appreciate you. See you next time.